Is every day trading rule that you make set in stone? Patrick, you said to never short above the VWAP. Patrick, you said to wait for the first 15-minute candle to close, but you did the opposite. Why do you not follow your own rules? Today, I want to address this question and explain that at the end of the day, there is nothing more powerful than price action. The indicators are lagging. The market itself is going to go to certain levels based on the volume, the price action, the momentum in the market. It doesn't care about the indicators that we put on the charts. I want to talk about this and explain why every rule in day trading is not set in stone, my friends. People watch my videos and they think like every single thing that I say, dead set. Like, oh, wow, Patrick said that you should never short above the VWAP. Oh, wow, Patrick said that you should always wait for the first 15-minute candle to break and then trade that opening range breakout. I understand. That's what it seems like, right? And I will agree that most of these rules, if you follow these rules, they're going to help you avoid, chop. They're going to help you avoid fake outs. They're going to help you avoid trading in spots where you maybe should not be entering a trade. Now, does that mean that if we're above the VWAP, there is never a good setup to get short, that you should never take a trade in the first 15 minutes? No, that's not what these rules are about. These rules are there for us, number one, to be aware of these things like the VWAP, to be aware that that first 15-minute candle, the first 15 minutes of price action, a lot of times it leads to choppy action. You get a lot of fake outs. So we create these rules not to say like, oh my God, there is no way I will ever trade the first 15 minutes. I'm never going to do it because Patrick said that you have to wait for the breakout or the breakdown. If you follow this rule, it will help you avoid a lot of the choppy, crazy action a lot of times at open. So if you don't know how to read price action, if you don't know how to control your overall risk to reward, things like that, well then, this might be the best idea for you to be able to avoid a lot of these kind of bad setups, right? We had this breakdown. We had this kind of just topping out there. Are we above the VWAP? Yes, we are. We're 100% above the VWAP there. Setup here is definitely looking hot, like it wants to break to the downside, end of day here. The ES is giving it up. It's just not looking hot. Like, look how tight we're getting right here. I mean, this is like a setup in itself, right? Even though the VWAP's right here at the 503s, it's like, is it a terrible short from the 26s? What are we doing? The overall price action is what? It's going lower. We're trending down. So even though the VWAP is here at the 500s, does not mean that this is a bullish price action, right? The price action alone is very bearish. Like, it's moving down here. We need to be able to get rid of this idea that like, hey, we're above the VWAP. There's no way I can short. Well, if the price action is clearly showing us that the market wants to go lower, well, then we're going to take that short like earlier in the day. Let's say we're sitting above the VWAP here, like at this level, right? And we bounced off the VWAP. We got below the VWAP for a second. We pushed back up. And then right now, let's say, okay, now we're above the VWAP here. It's like, do I want to be shorting right here? We know the VWAP is right here, obviously. Like, do I want to be shorting in this level when we just got back above the VWAP, when we have momentum to the upside? That's a different scenario, right? Like, that's a different scenario. So using the rule of like, hey, I'm not going to try to short here because why? Because we're above, the VWAP there. The VWAP's here, that white line. We're above it. So like, I'm not going to get short there until we get below the VWAP. I'm looking for weakness. I'm looking for a reason that I believe the market's gonna go down. I'm looking for the trend to change. As long as we're above the VWAP, I'm like, hey, we're bullish. We pushed up, we squeezed, okay. I'm looking to look for a long here. So I'm not looking to get short here, like on this break right there. I'm looking to look for the long, for that push up. People love to be like, oh man, it didn't work today. You said that you should never do this, and then today it did the exact opposite. Well, the market's not going to just always do exactly what you want it to do. The market doesn't care about what your rules are. The market doesn't care about what your strategy is. It doesn't care that you have all these indicators. It doesn't care about these things. The market's going to move. We're looking at liquidity. At the end of the day, liquidity is king. At the end of the day, the price action is king. Like the market is moving based on where the buyers and sellers are. The market is here to facilitate trades. The market is not here to be like, hey, Patrick, your indicator said that I should go down. Okay, I will now go down. Like the market doesn't care. The market's not here to fulfill your needs. The market's not here to follow your rules. You know, we had the possible gap fill. So even though the price action is below the VWAP there at open, again, like what do we have? We have reasons to get long. We have the pivot point right there. We're holding that level. We're pushing back up. Yes, we're below the VWAP 100%. You're right. But does that mean that there is no possible idea of getting long here? These gap fills we know love to get filled. Like I would say that the gaps take priority, or they take power over every other type of like rule. Like if I see the gap is there and I'm like, hey, there's that gap there. We're below the VWAP. I think we're going to push through the VWAP. Like I'm looking for a long here. I'm not looking to get short. I'm not looking to get short when we push back up here. And unless we somehow magically got stuck there at the VWAP and then we started rolling off. But like, I'm still not looking to get short here, knowing that gap to the upside's there. If that gap's sitting there waiting for me to get filled, why am I going to short right here? No way. And I'm definitely not going to short once we like break out of this move. If we break to the upside right here, there's no way I'm going to short right here. No way. Now that we're back above the VWAP, we're bouncing off that pivot. We had the pivot. We had that pivot. Again, it's like just because you think, just because your indicators, because your rules dictate a certain way of looking at things, does not mean that the market's not going to do that. The opposite. I mean, if it was that easy, if we all just had a rule and the market just did what we said it would do every day, we would all be rich, right? Like, oh, okay, here's my rule. I'm never going to short above the VWAP. Perfect. The market only go higher. Like it's not that easy. So the thing is, are the rules important? 100%. But again, it's the reasoning. It's like, why are those rules in place? The idea like, hey, I'm going to try to avoid shorting above the VWAP. If the market's trending higher, I don't want to get short. So that's a rule. Like, I'm not going to get short, but hey, look what's going on. We're now trending lower. We're now moving down to the VWAP. There's a good chance we break to the VWAP. So now I'm like almost using these rules, not so much like these rules are, the fine, like set in stone. There's no way of ever breaking these rules. No, these rules are keeping me aware. They're keeping me aware of like, hey, I want to make sure that I'm not shorting above the VWAP when we're trending higher. But then I look and I see like, hey, we're not trending higher. Okay, that invalidates my kind of idea of not shorting above the VWAP. Or like, hey, look, we're filling the gap. Oh, well, we're both, these things are all happening. It's just about being aware. Like you have these rules the same way that you're like, hey, I have a rule that if I have 2 losses in a row that I stop trading. Like that's 100% a great rule, right? It's a great rule. But at the same time, you also have to think like, it's not so much that every single time you make 2 losers, you're never going to have a winner afterwards. It's just that if you have 2 losers, maybe like you need to be aware that you had those 2 losers. You need to step back, take a break, and then be like, okay, I'm either going to walk away because I can't handle my emotions because I had 2 losers in a row, or I'm now like kind of taking a deep breath and being like, hey, okay, now I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for my setup. I need to be more patient. I need to be stricter, right? I have a rule that like, if I have these 2 losses in a row, now, mentally, I'm like, okay, I had my 2 losses. I'm going to walk away for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Like you have these rules to try to avoid, going on tilt, becoming emotional. Like these rules are set there not to say that you can't have a winner after 2 trades in a row, but it's just to like be aware that like now I probably need to take a break. Maybe I need to walk away. I need to be aware of my emotions. I need to be aware of why. Why do I say that I'm not going to short above the VWAP? Well, because sometimes I end up shorting above the VWAP while the market's trending higher. Or like, hey, why do I have a rule that I walk away after 2 trades? Because if I don't walk away, I'm going to keep doing stupid stuff and I'm going to end up having 3 or 4 or 5 bad trades in a row. So it's not about the rules themselves. It's about being aware of why we create these rules. So if you see me do something different on the live stream, you're like, well, Patrick, you said don't do that. It's like, it's not that I'm telling you that you should never do these things. It's that you should just be aware of these things. Why do we create these reasons to like not do this? Why do we create a reason to not short? Why do we create a reason to walk away after 3 losses, 2 losses, whatever it is? Because we know if we don't become aware of these things, if we don't take a breath, if we don't think about it in the right way, that we're probably going to end up going on tilt. We're going to end up doing something stupid, right? We're not going to follow the rule. I think that's a great way to look at it. There is no dead set in stone rule with trading, but there are things that we need to be aware of. We need to be aware of what we do when certain things happen. You know, when the market goes straight up, it's like, do I want to chase it? You know, some days you're looking at it, you're like, oh, I'm not going to chase this because it's probably going to pull back. And then other days you're like, man, this thing's not going to pull back. Like I'm going to jump in. I'm going to get in. And you might have days where, you know, jumping into it, it pays off. And then you might have days where you FOMO in at the top and it pulls back. And yeah, sure. Like you can you're trying to avoid those days, right? Like we want to avoid those days, but it happens. Like you're going to have trades that just aren't going to work out. Like you're going to have days where you're going to have those 2 losses and then you're going to have 5 winners afterwards. And then other days you're going to have those 2 losses. And if you don't take that breath, you don't walk away for a minute, well, then you're going to have 7 losses in a row. You're going to lose all your money, whatever it is. Like it's all just about being aware of our emotions and how our emotions affect our decisions when we're trading. There it is. There is no dead set rules when it comes to trading. It's just about the awareness, just being able to process kind of in that moment what's going on mentally. Do you need to walk away? Do you need to take a break? Do you need to think about, like, am I shorting against the trend? Am I trying to buy the dip when we're going down? Just being aware, asking yourself these questions. Oh, it all makes sense now.